There is talk in Moscow about the resignation of Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov. He ignored a nuclear meeting with Putin, which sparked a wave of panic and rumors in the Russian capital. The situation became so intense that the Kremlin had to publicly comment on it, CNN reports. Thus, on October 7th, Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary of dictator Vladimir Putin, assured journalists that Lavrov, of course, continues to serve as foreign minister and called reports of his possible resignation false. There is not a single grain of truth in these reports. The initial cause of the rumors about Lavrov's resignation was a Financial Times publication stating that the stance of Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov during his brief meeting and last phone conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was so uncompromising and unyielding that it surprised Washington and led to the cancellation of the summit between Trump and Putin. And the absence of the chief diplomat at the Security Council meeting, when Putin was discussing the prospect of resuming full-scale nuclear tests, only added fuel to the fire. The spokesperson for the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, confirmed Lavrov's absence from the meeting with Putin, but assured that this happens, and also began to deny rumors about Lavrov's resignation. Well, you knew what to ask about, of course. That's a fantastic story. Yes. According to propaganda media, Lavrov was absent by prior agreement, but this very fact drew the attention of observers, since he became the only permanent member of the council to miss the meeting. Suspicions grew after it became known that Lavrov would not head the Russian delegation at the G20 summit in Johannesburg. Analysts immediately began talking about possible disagreements between Lavrov and the Kremlin, but official Moscow insists that everything is under control.
Some funny facts have come up about this Kremlin character. Sergey, when was the last time you were in the US anyway?
In the US? Well, before the war. Before the war, before the sanctions.
Special military. Now it's a war, right? But that's not the point.
There's Peskov sitting across from me, my press secretary. Sometimes he spouts such nonsense. I watch him on TV myself and think, what is he even talking about? Who told him to say that?
Yet they're all out of their minds over there. Well, actually, if we talk about the biography, or more precisely about the ancestors of the man with the talking mustache, Putin, and about Peskov, all of that was classified as top secret for a long time. And now, some very interesting details about Peskov are coming to light. It turns out Peskov comes from a family of spies with a Bolshevik past. In Peskov's family tree, the Communist Party and the KGB are intertwined. His ancestors were respected under Lenin, Stalin, and Brezhnev. Now it makes sense. The puzzle pieces fit together once again. Of course, the whole Peskov family often spends time or lives in the West. His daughter is there and all that, but, well, that's not important.
We don't quite understand yet, but really, we patiently and steadily continue working in order to reach some kind of mutual understanding, taking our time as we go.
Yes, and what's symbolic is that this inadequate person is Putin's press secretary. So, when it comes to promoting their boss, they're having one PR failure after another in the Kremlin. Here's a specific case from this week.
Red Square is closed off. A scene that unfolded right by the Kremlin walls accidentally made it on air.
And let me just point out, this disgrace definitely wasn't shown on Russian state TV. But I'll show it to you.
Vladimir Putin didn't go to the front lines and instead, on National Unity Day, met with a group of school children. This time, the Kremlin's master didn't kiss a boy on the stomach, but he couldn't hold back on the compliments.
Father, where are you going, Bakrusin?
Yeah, it's that typical polished, I'd even say creamy picture, polished by the Kremlin. But then unexpectedly, things don't go according to plan.
Putin was about to leave, but then the initiator of the war had to hear a harsh truth, one that most likely isn't reported to him.
My uncle is at the front right now. He was wounded in the arm. He was in the hospital. They're not treating him at all, and now they're sending him on a mission.
What do you think will happen to the girl's uncle now?
You know, I think that the girl's uncle will be sent back to die in Ukraine no matter what. But that's far from the main disgrace, not Putin's biggest failure of the week.
I just want to say, are you idiots or what?
Well, look who's talking. This week, Putin once again started threatening the states with his petrol missiles, Poseidons, and other so-called nuts.
We are conducting another training exercise for our strategic forces and deterrence. We will practice the actions of officials in managing the use of nuclear weapons, including live launches of ballistic missiles.
Well, Trump is clearly tired of listening to this, so he launches, attention, his own intercontinental ballistic missile into the sky. The Kremlin needs to stop barking.
Look at how it flew, and most importantly, where it went. The US launched a missile after Putin's nuclear threats. There it is, a real beauty, the Minuteman III.
Just want to point out that while Putin is telling fairy tales about his Burevestniks and Poseidons, Trump actually has about 500 of these nuclear missiles. And they can reach Moscow very quickly. Yes, in the Kremlin, they immediately soiled their pants, but at first they tried to act tough. So, they called a Security Council meeting. That's the one where they didn't invite Lavrov. And they started trying to scare Trump again, acting all tough. This part is honestly hilarious.
Preparation for full-scale nuclear tests to begin immediately.
I'm telling you, that's powerful, really powerful. Then Putin also tried to puff up his cheeks, to look tough. Well, since he's the commander-in-chief and all. About
the possible beginning of initial work to prepare for nuclear weapons testing.
I'm telling you, that's it. He said it like it was final. But seriously, you understand Putin,
A coward, truly a coward, and a coward.
Exactly. He immediately switched to his bunker mode. And who has to take the heat? This time, do you know who had to humiliate themselves in front of Trump? That's right, Peskov. It's classic. The Kremlin started making excuses after the Russian dictator Putin ordered the resumption of nuclear tests. Apparently, there wasn't even any talk about resuming the tests. It was about something else, said Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. So why else did Putin get so scared, really? Once again, something happened in the sky over Moscow. For the second time in 2 weeks, a fireball was spotted. They say it was a meteorite again. But who really knows? Maybe it was Trump's doing after all. I
was trying to escape. We managed something about you, you damn wanderer of boredom. The stars died. Who were you?
I don't know. Looks like a comet or something.
Yeah.
But in any case, Peskov tried to cover for Putin in front of Trump somehow. But no, it didn't work out for him. Trump is already openly saying that Putin wants to go to war, and he doesn't like that attention. Russians don't want to stop. This is the main disagreement that prevented the summit with Putin from happening. And these are no longer just words. The fact is, Trump, Erdogan, and the president of Azerbaijan, Aliyev, have decided to take action against Putin, not just talk. I'll tell you exactly how in a moment.
A historic meeting at the White House. The leaders of Central Asia were received in the US to highlight their importance in the current global agenda. And by the end of the day, billion-dollar deals were signed with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan.
So let's look at this in more detail. So US President Donald Trump is meeting at the White House with the leaders of 5 Central Asian countries. These are Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan.
It is a great honor for me to be with these incredible leaders. These are highly respected people. And there are no games here. They don't play games, I want to tell you that. And
you understand, not so long ago, these countries were completely under the Kremlin's influence. But now that's over. Moscow, goodbye.
It was reported that Trump wants to seriously enter a market that is already tired of Moscow. And if both the US and China get seriously involved here, then there is no point in cooperating with the Kremlin's struggling economy. Let them get out of their crisis on their own if they don't appreciate the importance of Central Asia.
The government of the Russian Federation is looking for those to blame for the breakdown of negotiations between dictator Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump in Budapest. The Kremlin placed the blame for this on the Russian Foreign Ministry, since the memorandum with its unrealistic and excessive demands, which sounded like an ultimatum, caused Trump's anger and the subsequent cancellation of the meeting. Lavrov has been named the main culprit. It was he whom the Western press called the main factor in the cooling of relations with the US. Several media outlets report that Lavrov came to the meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio unprepared, refused to engage in discussion, and took an overly hardline stance on Ukraine, trying to follow the Kremlin's instructions to the letter. According to the Telegram channel Nexta, insiders say that Lavrov received a severe reprimand from Putin. The head of the Russian Foreign Ministry was almost accused of sabotage, since under no circumstances was he supposed to disrupt the summit. Amid the scandals, Kirill Dmitriev flew to the US in an attempt to ease attention. Journalist Rostislav Mirzagilov shared insider information from the Kremlin about Lavrov's fate. Putin is seriously considering the option of dismissing the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation as soon as the intensity of Russia's aggressive actions against Ukraine decreases.
When he gets removed, Putin will start looking for someone to blame. That's typical for him. So, accordingly, Lavrov is the perfect scapegoat. He has said a lot of nasty things. He is cursed at the Russian Federation's international partners.
On October 16th, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he intended to hold a meeting with Putin in Hungary. He did not announce the date of the summit, but noted that talks between the foreign ministers were planned beforehand. Already on October 22nd, Trump stated that he had canceled the summit with Putin. On the same day, the U.S. Treasury Department imposed sanctions against Russian oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil. Soon after, Trump stated that he would not meet with Putin or waste his time until there was an understanding about reaching a peace agreement between Ukraine and the Russian Federation.
The head of the foreign ministry of the aggressor country Russia, Sergey Lavrov, stated that rumors about the poisoning of former Syrian dictator Bashar Assad allegedly do not correspond to reality. Earlier, the media reported that in September Assad was urgently taken to the hospital after a possible poisoning attempt. The head of the Russian foreign ministry said that the former Syrian dictator has no problems in Moscow and that no poisoning took place. Lavrov added that the Kremlin has provided asylum to Assad and his family, purely for humanitarian reasons. Sergey Lavrov also commented on the absence of Moscow's representatives at the summit in Egypt dedicated to concluding a peace agreement on the Gaza Strip. According to him, Russia was not invited. He said that the invitation was sent by the summit organizers. The leadership of Egypt, which coordinated its actions with other Arab initiators, but primarily with the United States. It should be noted that this is the first statement from the head of the foreign ministry of the aggressor country after a long absence from the public sphere. The Telegram channel Kremlin PR previously reported that the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin was allegedly advised to arrest Lavrov for treason. According to the channel's sources, at the very least, he faces dismissal. In particular, Lavrov is accused of allegedly committing treason and of hindering the establishment of Russian-American relations. The possible dismissal of the foreign minister may be connected to the power transition in the Kremlin. According to the Telegram channel General SVR, the alleged successor to the presidency of Russia is Dmitry Patrushev, who currently serves as Deputy Prime Minister of the Russian Federation. The channel reports that the end of the power transition is already near.
He's actually so incredibly ancient that he knew the Kremlin Führer back when he was still pretending to be a Democrat.
What is this? Have they completely lost their minds or what? It's just unbelievable.
Just like his balding boss in his chair, or rather in his stall, he's been there for over 20 years.
You know, I'm actually a horse. A shapeshifter.
Once a respected and influential diplomat who ruined his own reputation, obediently washing Puilos's dirty laundry. But
you could never make my husband do the laundry.
Yeah, scent would make him do it.
A showy traditionalist, a devoted family man, a script carrier, and just a God-fearing Christian.
Sergey Viktorovich Lavrov, who is the Distinguished Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, is hereby awarded the prestigious Order of the Holy Prince Alexander Nevsky, First Class, by the Russian Orthodox Church.
In reality, an adulterer, clumsily hiding his mistress, or rather, even his second family.
A business trip to a diplomatic mission, yes, that's exactly what it says, a business trip at the age of just 13.
A debauchee and libertine who happily spends time on luxurious yachts in the company of powerful oligarchs and high-class prostitutes.
Nice work.
The living embodiment of Russian diplomacy and notorious arrogance. In other words, a bore and a lout, concealing himself behind diplomatic protocols, official suits and ties. One of the main accomplices of the infamous bunker villain who is actively promoting war on the international stage.
So, a ceasefire right now would mean only one thing. That a huge part of Ukraine would currently remain under the control of the Nazi regime.
A loyal, proven, and consistently reliable puppet of the vile little Putin, who has thoroughly discredited himself to such an extent that his master could easily throw him out like trash at any moment, or maybe even out the window.
Then tell me, what advice or recommendation can you perhaps give in this situation, please?
a hypocrite, manipulator, cynical liar, and war criminal who has been responsible for Russia's foreign policy for over 20 years.
So it's you that everyone is cursing. It's you who are to blame for everything.
A cowardly opportunist and careerist who figured it out even in his youth. The USSR is a multinational state where everyone is equal, but still, Russians are more equal than others.
I am Russian.
But let's not really kid ourselves.
Kalantarian or Kalantarov, that is the real surname of the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry. His father is a Georgian Armenian, and Lavrov himself is from Tbilisi. Sergey's childhood was spent on Ararat Street in the Armenian district of the city. Over time, the family ended up in the city of Noginsk in the Moscow region and later moved to Moscow, where Sergey's far-sighted mother, an employee of the USSR Ministry of Foreign Trade, enrolled her son in a school with advanced English studies, which Lavrov successfully graduated from, earning a silver medal.
I don't speak any languages, Your Honor.
It would seem all doors to the country's top universities were open to such a talented boy. That's true, but not to the elite ones. Especially not the Institute of International Relations. The boy's Caucasian roots could have put an end to his future brilliant diplomatic career. And so, not to tempt fate, Sergey Kalantarian became Lavrov, taking his mother's suitably traditional Russian surname. I'm narrow-minded. So just as with his very birth, Sergey owed his entry into diplomatic life to his mother. After her son graduated from MGIMO, it was she, using her connections in the Ministry of Foreign Trade, who helped Sergey get a job at the Soviet Foreign Ministry.
It will be them, not these, who put us in the defendant's seat, especially you diplomats.
Just a few years later, Lavrov would receive his first significant position at the USSR's mission to the UN. The collapse of the Soviet Union would hardly affect Sergey's career. He would automatically transition from a Soviet diplomat to a Russian one. Although, judging by the sweater Lavrov wore when he showed up in Alaska almost 35 years after the collapse of the evil empire, he still seems to be nostalgic for the socialist prison camp.
Sergey Viktorovich, is this your first time in Alaska? Twins, could you please tell us? Is it your first? I've been here before, I have. Do you like it?
There was absolutely nothing imperial about it at all. There was no discussion or talk whatsoever of any attempts to revive imperial thinking, as some people claim.
It was in the USA, on enemy soil, deep behind enemy lines, that the first daughter, Ekaterina, was born to the Russian ultra-patriot, from his official wife, Maria Lavrova. For a long time, with all his might, Sergey would pretend to be a true, upstanding family man and proclaim traditional values at every turn. But no matter how long you twist the rope, the end will show. Over time, journalists saw through the charade and discovered his second unofficial family, Lavrov's. But we'll talk about this corrupting influence of the West a bit later.
A little about myself. Split personality, constant nonsense. Erotomania.
After the collapse of the Soviet Union, in Yeltsin's new Russia, Lavrov becomes the permanent representative of the Russian Federation to the UN and Security Council. Sergey Viktorovich serves in this role for over 10 years, until 2004, when Putin appoints him Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Weren't you warned that I suffer from all kinds of nervous and mental illnesses?
The connections he built in New York and his extensive diplomatic experience did their job. On the international stage, Lavrov became a highly respected figure. At that time, few were able to see the lame nag and the dashing Bucephalus. The first warning signs that revealed the diplomat's true rude nature rang out in 2008, when during a conversation with the British minister, the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry got personal.
The Daily Telegraph described how, in 2008, the minister, in a phone conversation with the UK Foreign Secretary, spoke in an aggressive tone and used obscene language. Who are you to fucking lecture me? Who are you to tell me what to do?
You'd think that for any normal diplomat, such rude communication would be unacceptable, but not for the head of foreign affairs of Russia's ignorant little czar. For a St. Petersburg thug, being a boorish diplomat isn't a drawback. If anything, it's the opposite.
The streets of Leningrad taught me one rule. If a fight is truly inevitable, you have to strike first.
And not for nothing, Lavrov is the most resilient of Putin's ministers. A bunker dweller with a criminal past, he likes that his country's diplomacy is done in a way and language he understands.
To use slang, but still we have this saying. A guy said, a guy did it, right?
After landing the position of foreign minister, and with it unlimited influence, Lavrov, just like most top officials in the Russian Federation, set about improving his own personal life and well-being. No, not the lives of ordinary Russians, but his own. And also those of his numerous relatives and mistresses.
I can't believe it. Really? Such crocodile appetites!
For many years, Lavrov's private life, just like that of Russia's main Führer Putler, was almost a state secret. His official wife Maria and daughter Ekaterina lead very private lives. The head of the family made sure they had cushy positions, and so I bought their silence. And the second one to my real but unofficial family.
This is truly a lot of money and a lot of trust. Young men.
Lavrov's mistress, or rather his real but unofficial wife, is called Svetlana Polyakova. Journalists from the Alexei Navalny Foundation claim that they have been together for more than 20 years. It is Svetlana who is regarded in the highest circles of Russian politics, and in fact, in the foreign ministry as the only wife of the head. The woman is present at many official events, up to and including meetings with the Russian dictator. Thanks to Lavrov, a wide circle of Svetlana Polyakova's family constantly uses government planes as if they were their own private tour bus.
Not only the mistress is taken to the most important interstate negotiations, but also her mother and daughter. And in addition, an 18-year-old niece mistress of Lavrov travels the world on behalf of the foreign ministry. Her name is Valeria Polyakova. She flew to Azerbaijan on a foreign ministry plane as an accompanying family member. In March 2019, she flew with him to Vienna. And in December 2016, she flew to Hamburg on Lavrov's plane. On a business trip to a diplomatic mission. That's exactly what it says. On a business trip at the age of 13.
Polyakova owns a 260 square meter apartment in the center of Moscow, a dacha in the Moscow region, and an impressive collection of cars. The minister didn't neglect Svetlana's daughter either. Her 22-year-old stepson Ippolini, in the most prestigious district of London, Lavrov bought an apartment. Its value is over £4 million sterling.
Remember, gentlemen, this country will, as we all know, be ruined by corruption and...
Still, at whose expense is Sergey Viktorovich living it up? After all, the minister's official salary wouldn't even be enough to buy jewelry for Svetlana, his mistress.
Just give.
Could you please give me my money now? Thank you. I'm really very poor.
It turns out Lavrov is the personal escort of billionaire minister Oleg Deripaska. For the oligarch, having trouble getting an American visa is no big deal. He simply sends his errand boy using his connections. The foreign ministry steps in to resolve the issue. Western sanctions against Deripaska's company and Lavrov. He throws himself into the fray, publicly denouncing his opponents and calling their actions Russophobia, reminiscent of genocide. In return, Deripaska pays for all the whims of his pet minister, including vacations on a luxury yacht that costs about $500,000 a week to rent. He throws in some cash for private jet travel and allocates funds to the minister's family as well, for Lavrov to buy up elite real estate in currently decadent Europe.
When Deripaska's company had a conflict with the authorities in Guinea, where he has bauxite and aluminum production, Lavrov rushed there personally to sort things out. And he got what he wanted. Using his status, he met with the president of Guinea and resolved all of Deripaska's problems. Well, it wasn't all for nothing after all. After all, Deripaska has been taking his family on vacations for years.
Deripaska also has business interests in Jamaica. There too, Lavrov is lobbying on his behalf. He secured preferences for Rusal in alumina mining.
But all this, as they say, is just family business. But what about Lavrov's main area of professional activity? On the international stage. Here, things are pretty bleak for Sergey. After the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Kremlin's talking horse completely lost it. All remnants of his former authority are gone.
If I remember correctly, though I might be mistaken, but I think Hitler also had Jewish blood. That means absolutely nothing. We have long since We've heard the wise Jewish saying that the most passionate anti-Semites are usually, as is often observed, Jews themselves. In
his hatred for Ukrainians, Lavrov has lied and tangled himself up so much that he managed to deeply offend Jews as well, for which, as a result, his master Putin himself was forced to apologize personally. All in all, the once all-powerful minister of a mighty country has become an outcast and a laughingstock for everyone. You know, the war that we are trying to stop is not one that we began or wanted. It was started against us, and those responsible have used the Ukrainian people in this conflict, making them suffer as a result. Our intention has always been to bring an end to the fighting and to restore peace, not only for ourselves but also for those who have been caught in the middle. We are committed to doing everything we can to stop this war and to protect everyone affected by it. What real difference does it make? Thought Lavrov. After all, Joachim Ribbentrop's ultimate end was no better than that of Joseph Goebbels's.
Among the values that Ukraine promotes under Zelensky, let me remind you, are also the values of Nazism.
Karma is an inescapable thing. According to independent journalists, 75-year-old Lavrov has begun to experience serious health problems. And the horse, racing against Don Don, gallops confidently and swiftly. To hell. The first symptoms of the chief diplomat of the swamp's illness were detected back in 2022 during his visit to Bali. That was where the G20 summit was held. According to Russian media, information spread about Lavrov being hospitalized in a local hospital. As a result, the foreign ministry's press drunkard Maria Zakharova hurriedly rushed to deny everything and published a video supposedly showing her healthy boss. But the sight of a gaunt Sergey Viktorovich only fueled suspicions. Well, and
for about 10 years now, they've been writing that our president is ill. This is, in fact, a game that's nothing new in politics.
Now, information is currently being widely circulated all over Russian telegram channels about the possible demise of the old nag.
Putin was advised to put Lavrov in prison for treason. The head of the foreign ministry is upset and afraid that a missile will kill him. In
the Kremlin jar of spiders, Lavrov has plenty of enemies, and it seems they've sensed that the old man isn't what he used to be. And in Putin's criminal circle, they know exactly what to do with worn-out horses.
Worn-out horses get shot after all, don't they?
Be that as it may, the days of the aging, increasingly frail old man who currently occupies the minister's chair are slowly coming to an end. The only real question that remains is whether President Putin will allow his loyal, long-serving old steed to retire honorably for health reasons, or perhaps following a common and well-known tradition among the Russian elite, the one who knows too much will, quite suddenly, fall out of a Moscow high-rise window.
Yet another mysterious death. In Moscow, the vice president of Transneft, Andrei Badalov, has died. According to telegram channels close to law enforcement, he fell from the balcony of a 17th-floor apartment on Rubliovskoye Highway.
I want to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated manner to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. We do not aim to mislead anyone in any way, but simply wish to emphasize humor and lightheartedness. Please take this with a smile and a sense of fun.
Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov turned out to come from a spy family with a Bolshevik past, according to the publication Proект. Despite being the only Kremlin official who is always in the public eye, this has not prevented him from keeping his origins in the very elite of Soviet society a secret for decades. In Peskov's family tree, the Communist Party and the KGB are intertwined. His ancestors were held in high esteem under Lenin, Stalin, and Brezhnev, the publication notes. In Peskov's official biography published by the TASS agency, there is not a single word about his mother. It only states that he was born into the family of Soviet and Russian diplomat Sergey Peskov. Peskov's mother may have served in the security services. The Peskov family lived in a government building on Presnya. Their neighbors were KGB and foreign trade employees. The father of the Russian president's press secretary, Sergey Peskov, most likely worked in intelligence. Originally from Mukachevo, Ukraine, he graduated from the Institute of Asian and African Countries and spent many years working in the Middle East under the cover of friendship societies and solidarity committees with countries of people's democracy. This was a standard cover for Soviet intelligence officers during the Cold War. 2 marriages helped the president's press secretary advance in his career. His first wife was Anastasia, the granddaughter of Stalin's Marshal Semyon Budyonny. The second marriage played an important role in Peskov's career. He married Ekaterina, the daughter of Russian diplomat Vladimir Solotsinsky. It was Solotsinsky who, in 1999, recommended Peskov as a translator during Boris Yeltsin's visit to Turkey. After that, he was transferred to the Kremlin. This is how Peskov became the second person after Alexei Gromov responsible for Putin's media image in the Kremlin.
The main liar and hypocrite of all Russia.
Let us remind you that throughout its entire history, Russia has never attacked anyone.
The mouthpiece for the thoughts and intentions of the completely deranged bunker-dwelling madman.
And as Putin said yesterday, one of the objectives was the demilitarization of Ukraine. In fact, this objective has largely been achieved.
The talking mouth of Putin, whom not even Putin himself believes.
There's Peskov sitting across from me, my press secretary. Sometimes he spouts such nonsense I myself watch. On TV, I think, what is he talking about? Who told him to say that?
When his master loosens the leash, he's a charming liberal, not without self-irony.
Good evening, hello. It showed?
But as soon as the Kremlin wind blows in a different direction, the mustachioed weather vane instantly turns into a staunch supporter of dictatorship and a die-hard patriot.
US tanks are driving on the territory of the Russian Federation. They're not just driving around, they go for a while and then they burn because we destroy them. And we will keep destroying them.
A man who built his career on lies and turned hypocrisy and deceit into the Kremlin's calling card.
What's the name of the Ukrainian general?
I think it's hostage.
Hostage. He needs to rest. Overworked.
However, the ability to lie, adapt, and be hypocritical are not Peskov's only trump cards. The mustachioed puppet of the bunker paved his way to Putin's ear and heart through the bedroom, or rather, through the beds of several influential and high-status women.
As for the story with the watch, well, I couldn't not wear my wife's gift to our wedding. It's hardly likely that a gift from a wife to her husband or from a husband to his wife could have anything to do with anti-corruption activities.
Especially, not a single word from her can be trusted. Whether she's talking about war, politics, the economy, or family. A person who has obediently accepted the role of court jester and who gladly plays the part of Putin's puppet. Despite the fact that Peskov is a hereditary diplomat, his father started out as a Soviet and later a Russian ambassador responsible for relations with Arab countries. Peskov paved his way into big politics as a kept man.
How could I be so stupid? How did I not realize right away that Zhenya is a gigolo? I'm a gigolo?
Peskov's first wife, Anastasia Budyonnaya, is the granddaughter of that very same mustachioed and bloody Soviet marshal, Semyon Budyonny. It was precisely through his relationship with Anastasia that the future press secretary of Putler began his ascent to the Kremlin Olympus.
When he became a member of the family of that bloody marshal, he naturally took advantage of all their connections.
Family ties, as well as knowledge of several foreign languages, helped the mustachioed liar get a job at the Soviet Foreign Ministry. A few years later, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Budyonny name lost its former luster. And the gigolo diplomat Peskov began looking for new bedroom opportunities. And he found them.
You want a great but pure love.
Well, who doesn't want that?
In 94, he married 18-year-old Ekaterina Solotsinskaya, the daughter of influential Russian diplomat Vladimir Solotsinsky.
Then come to the hayloft when it gets dark.
By the time of the wedding, the romance between Dima and Ekaterina had already been going on for several years. The future tainted Putin clan was not bothered by the mistress's underage status, nor by the official wife, nor by their still very young son.
He began actively pursuing her when he was just 14 years old at a very young age, while his wife, who at that particular time was Budyonny's granddaughter, was already pregnant with their son.
Many people today know Peskov's son well, He inherited his father's ability to lie and be hypocritical at a genetic level.
First, you need to try with a simple lie.
This is the same Nikolai Chules who so absurdly shied away from mobilization, hiding behind his father's surname.
Do you know that I am Mr. Peskov? How wrong is it for me to... Did you sit down?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll handle this, I'll deal with it at another level.
Having become a laughingstock, Kolya supposedly went off to war, where, anonymously and apparently out of excessive modesty, he served under Prigozhin's wing, the head of Wagner PMC.
This is the first time I'm saying this. Out of all my acquaintances, there's one person, Dmitry Sergeyevich Peskov, who at one time was known as a complete liberal, and his son, who spent part of his life in America, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or in England. He came and said, I'll take him as a regular artilleryman. By the way, he did his job absolutely fine. As a regular artilleryman, knee-deep in mud and filth during a hurricane. Very few people know about this.
Wonderful, amazing, absolutely brilliant, truly incredible and fantastic.
By the way, when it comes to Nikolai's modesty, in this regard he's no worse than his father. The offspring of Putin's secretary has never officially worked anywhere. At the same time, he owns expensive real estate in the center of Moscow, as well as a fleet of luxury cars.
Nikolai himself drives a new Range Rover, patriotically tying a St. George ribbon to the mirror. Such a car costs about 9 million rubles.
And here we see a Ferrari in his collection. And here's a Mercedes, a motorcycle, and of course, a Harley Davidson. In
between parties at elite night, clubs, Peskov's child even managed to spend time in a British prison. In 2009, the son of the future presidential press secretary and great-grandson of Marshal Budyonny attacked a British teenager.
Well, you piece of trash, now I'm going to beat you up. Just not here, Kolya, not here. Let's go, follow me. Go ahead.
This happened right outside the local McDonald's. All in the best Russian traditions. First, Peskov's son beat up the underage poor guy and took his money, and then tried to escape. In Moscow, he might have gotten away with it, but in London, even fools have to obey the law. The British police found and punished the perpetrator. But let's get back to our main Peskov. After swapping Budenaya for Solotsinskaya, Dima continued to climb the career ladder. The connections of his new flame's father helped the mustachioed opportunist land a job at the Russian embassy in Turkey.
You never truly loved me. You married me just for your career.
Fame didn't keep Kalima waiting long. In November '99, Peskov appeared on television for the first time. In front of millions of Russians, he flamboyantly flattered his boss, his future boss, Boris Yeltsin. This happened at the OSCE summit in Istanbul.
You are a great man, sire.
It was thanks to this visit by Yeltsin to Turkey that Peskov managed to make his way into the Kremlin. Dima quickly managed to win over the boss of all Russian propagandists, Alexei Gromov. An obsequious, unscrupulous, and fawning lackey, a real find for the Kremlin. After a brief period of serving Yeltsin, Dima was then passed on to Putin as an inheritance.
I will point it out, just to be clear. I did everything I could.
As he climbed the career ladder, Dima lost interest in his now less prestigious second wife, and Peskov began cheating on her more and more often. By that time, Ekaterina had given the mustachioed liar 3 children, a daughter, Elizaveta, and 2 sons, Mika and Danny. All these children from his second marriage would eventually become ideological enemies of Putin's regime. That is, they would become citizens of the hated France.
The culture of Paris, of Parisian life, is very different from that of Russia. Here, the laws regarding minorities are different. Here, Charlie Hebdo brings millions of people out onto the streets.
The eldest daughter, Elizaveta, openly admits that she likes those very European values that are deeply hated in Putin's Russia, and not just the democratic ones, but also the non-traditional ones.
So do you actually like this liberal spirit of France, or is it difficult for you? Honestly, it's not difficult for me at all. I really enjoy it. I absolutely love it. So you're in favor of the Charlie Hebdo demonstrations and same-sex marriage? Honestly, yes.
And once again, the genetic Peskov hypocrisy is plain to see. We love freedom, democracy, and liberalism. But we love the father's connections, which allow Liza to live a wealthy life even more. First, she was placed in the position of advisor to the president of the Avanti organization. All that Peskov's daughter was remembered for in that position was empty talk about PR for shipbuilding.
It's necessary to develop strategies, roughly speaking, for the PR of shipbuilding, ship production.
Liza really loves Paris. But even more, she loves the luxury and big money from her father, thanks to which she set up her life in France.
The apartment itself is located in one of the most expensive districts of Paris. It has an area of 180 square meters. There is an entrance hall, a living room, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a laundry room, and a balcony. It was purchased in September 2016. It is registered to the French legal entity Sirius, 75% of which belongs to Ekaterina Solotsinskaya Peskova and 25% to her daughter Liza Peskova. And
still, don't be too quick to label Peskova's daughter as a spoiled rich kid or a member of the Golden Youth. It would be better to feel sorry for poor Liza. After all, according to her father, she doesn't live. She merely survives in the harshest French, practically Spartan conditions.
She was never a spoiled rich kid. She had a very difficult life, a tough time studying. Not only in Russia, she also studied in France. And she always lived there in great poverty.
The millions of euros that Peskov spent on supporting the children of his wife, Ekaterina Solotsinskaya, became a sort of payoff for his infidelities and the collapse of yet another family. A government official who has never been involved in business bought up elite real estate and luxury cars in huge quantities.
Remember, gentlemen, this country will be ruined by corruption. In
2010, the future Kremlin family man starts a new romance. This time, it's with the figure skating champion Tatyana Navka. Family values? Never heard of them. At that time, not only Dmitry was married, but so was Tatyana.
I can't tell you absolutely everything, but I'll say this. We really did have families before, just so you know.
We have children from our previous marriages.
All these Russian values and traditional morals are just for the common folk. The Tsars and boyars aren't interested in these fairy tales. He would only officially divorce his former wife, Yekaterina Peskova, 2 years later. By the way, in that same 2012, the liar and sycophant finally reached his Olympus, the seat of press secretary to the Russian dictator.
The real stroke of luck in my life, of course, was becoming Putin's press secretary.
What a stroke of luck it was indeed. The position turned out to be very lucrative. See for yourself. Just a few years later, at the wedding of Putin's talking marionette, journalists noticed an exclusive Richard Mille Swiss watch on his wrist, worth about $620,000.
The state hires me, they pay me a salary, and I do my job.
Without even thinking, the mustachioed liar claimed that it was supposedly a gift from his new, already third wife. Where figure skater Navka got that kind of money, the common folk don't deserve to know such details.
God will judge them for their actions, but I know, without any doubt whatsoever, that I am being completely and totally honest. With myself, with my perhaps homeland, and in general.
Russians also don't deserve to know how Babkin, the press secretary, managed to have a honeymoon on the largest sailing yacht in the world.
People want to figure out what's going on.
That's natural?
It's legitimate.
By the way, here's some information for other Russian government officials. A week's rental on such a yacht will cost you about 25 million rubles. So, just like Liza Peskova, we've made our own contribution to the PR and development of shipbuilding.
Money is everything, brother. Money rules the world, and the one with more of it is stronger.
But anyway, let's just pretend we believe in the huge profits of a figure skater. But what exactly is the secret of her success? It's simple and mundane. Navka, just like her sycophant husband, knows how to really bend over backwards for those in power. How could anyone refuse to grant a state subsidy to a champion agitator?
Putin, as many people know, is a man of his word. If he says it, he does it.
For the sake of money, status, and Putin's affection, Navka gave up her homeland, her family, and her friends. A native of the city of Dnipro, who first gained fame in sports precisely in Ukraine. Tatiana lived in the United States for more than 15 years. But all of that faded in the athlete's greedy eyes before the enormous Kremlin profits. And now, the once celebrated figure skater has turned into a female version of a Putinist buffoon shaman.
It's very good that I'm Russian.
Congratulations to the rest of you on your administrative penalties. Hello, Russia, the country of Gagarin, Pushkin, and me.
If you believe the official declaration of the Peskov family, it turns out that Dima is just a kept man living off his wife. Tatiana earns dozens of times more than her government servant husband.
And who here isn't ashamed, huh? Zhenya isn't ashamed that he's been living off someone else for 8 years.
In addition to a watch collection worth as much as several luxury Moscow apartments, Peskov owns a modest mansion costing only about 1 billion rubles. Naturally, the house is registered in his wife's name. After all, Dima is an ascetic, just like his boss.
You go to the Maldives on vacation, and I'm the one providing for you. Not
everything! I bought the pumice stone for my heels in the bathroom myself.
Yes, Peskov is obliging, unscrupulous, cunning, and a deceitful sycophant and opportunist. But he has a rare gift. He actually enjoys it. And it's exactly these kinds of people that the bunker moth values most of all. After all, Putin is the same way himself, and it was precisely thanks to these qualities that he managed to claw his way onto the Russian throne.
When the president criticizes you, does it make you not want to live anymore? In what form does that happen? It makes you not want to live at all. Is it very harsh? It can be harsh, yes. And
still, one shouldn't underestimate Peskov. He's not just a glamorous scoundrel spewing Putin's thoughts. He's a full-fledged accomplice in his master's crimes. After all, more than anyone else, he contributed to the image that Russians have come to love. The tough guy, the macho, the regular guy.
My handsome one. Isn't he just adorable, huh? There you go, a little massage, all done, take care.
For what?
Malicious tongues say that it's Peskov who's behind those ridiculous videos of the bunker Tsar. With footage that turns a small, insecure, frail, and bitter thug into a cruel and all-powerful leader of the nation.
But I like it.
Yeah. Peskov tries to hide behind the mask of a liberal. Sometimes he even pretends to be a Democrat and flirts with those persecuted by the authorities, the so-called foreign agents.
It turns out that at Yudashkin's funeral he approached, greeted Alla Borisovna Pugacheva, and even kissed her hand. What an explosion of emotions there was among the Z patriots. Alla Pugacheva's husband Galkin is a foreign agent who criticizes the authorities, and Pugacheva herself criticizes them too.
But you can't hide it all in a sack. He is one of the main criminals of Putin's regime. A puppet whose unscrupulous and cynical lies justify any atrocities committed by his master. And so, both in life and on the defendant's bench, Peskov will sit at his master's feet.
I mean, for example, the masterfully and bloodthirstily staged provocation in Bucha near Kyiv. Obviously, Ukrainian specialists themselves could hardly have worked so professionally. They have an army of companies working for them too. PR firms, television people, information advisors, and specialists in information warfare. But in my lifetime, of course, it has never gone this far. And what I see now, I truly could never have imagined would ever happen in this world.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.